Hey everyone, I'm Jenny Peters. I'm the owner of Varsity Sports here in Baton Rouge, and I'm here today to talk about a new podcast, or actually it's kind of a short form video podcast because it's actually going to be visual, that's filmed in Gordon McKernan's new content creation studio. It's fabulous, and so I have the opportunity to do that. So what I want to do is pick something out of the ordinary for running and look at the other side of athletes that you may know in town. So my podcast is called It Runs Deep, which means there's a deeper, more personal side to a lot of the runners, walkers, and athletes in town. And this will give them a safe place to talk about that and have conversations. And I'm thinking a lot of people out in the audience will relate in a lot of different ways. And now we're going to jump right into episode 1 with Donny Boudreaux, who owns Boudreaux Jewelers, who, has some tales to tell about the Boston Marathon.
We run this every day, all day.
For most runners, qualifying for the Boston Marathon is kind of the pinnacle of their careers if they're serious about things. But in the weeks leading up to Boston, for my first guest, something unexpected happened, and he found himself in a deep depression that made even boarding the plane to Boston kind of a challenge. And, today we're going to talk about the difficult journey and what it took mentally and emotionally to get to that starting line. So it's something that I wanted to have a conversation personally about because I was on the fringes of it. So I want to introduce everybody to my longtime friend and running buddy, Donny Boudreaux. Donnie's from Boudreaux Jewelers families, and he was telling me actually over the weekend how long they've been in business. How long has Boudreaux's been around?
Since 1933. My grandfather started it back in New Orleans. And
it continues to be part of the family?
We're into the fourth generation now, so my nephews are working in the store. My two daughters haven't, gravitated towards it, but at least we have other family that are continuing the tradition.
Well, as a fellow business owner, I can appreciate that. I've just hit the 25-year mark, so I got a long way to go. Knock on wood that I can do it.
I can see you getting there easy, though.
Okay. I'm hoping, Donnie. Let's talk a little bit about when you first started running. You've been at it for a while, right?
Yeah. Started in high school, really. I didn't do a lot of organized sports in grade school, and I was a little quiet and to myself. But, in high school, I didn't do cross country the first year, but I did do track the first year, and it took me a little, gumption just to, show up and try out for the team, but it worked out extremely well.
Were you shy? Is that what it was?
I was shy, and, it was just difficult. It wasn't easy for me to kind of gravitate to those things. But, once I got into it, it really I blossomed with it, and it really changed my outlook.
And sometimes running does that as an individual sport, but also a team sport. It allows people to blossom, if you will.
Absolutely.
I see you brought some pictures from high school.
Yeah, I have a couple of years where we won the state championship.
Brother Martin, New Orleans?
Brother Martin, New Orleans. So in 1980, 1981, that would have been my sophomore and junior years. And I was the only junior that actually ran on the state championship team. So all the seniors and me as a junior.
That's something at Brother Martin to be able to do that.
Yeah, and unfortunately we were so heavy loaded to the seniors the next year. We had won district and city for 11, 12 years in a row since the inception of cross country in New Orleans. And my senior year, unfortunately, I was the co-captain and I ended up being the MVP, but we ended up losing for the first time
Donnie
in our
B,
history.
That's big stuff. So no surprise that you're a Boston qualifier with all that.
Yeah.
Even that we talked about this not too long ago, and you brought me the clipping at Crescent City Classic, which is a 10K. We ran in the same race in 1984.
Didn't even know it.
I didn't even know it, and I just been running for 4 years, and I'm looking at you this was your junior year, maybe.
That was actually my senior year.
Senior year.
So that was my senior year.
Ran at 38:05, which is 6:08 per mile pace. For 6 miles, that's pretty darn good.
Pretty decent.
Well,
but you were faster.
Well, yeah, I do look in the fine print, and I'd run 33:56, which was probably for me just a really big deal then. But,
awesome.
But the thing is, later you've eclipsed me and passed me. So, you've left me behind. But let me ask you, when did we meet? When did you join the varsity running group exactly? Do you remember?
It sort of surprised me because I thought when I first came up to Baton Rouge in 2005, I was a Katrina refugee. Our business expanded up here. And I must not have gotten into the running scene initially, but...
Were you running on your own?
possibly a little bit, and then me and a buddy, actually, Stephen Barnett.
Yeah.
We decided to train for the Louisiana Marathon. I don't think I was maybe running with you guys at that point, but probably through that whole experience, got into the varsity group. So, and I'm trying to remember what year that was, but it was a 7-year period before, I met my goal. But I just trained. I had run a marathon when I was 17 in high school.
Well, that's early.
I didn't train for it. I felt, I'm a cross country runner. I'm pretty in decent shape, but that race is its own animal. So I suffered on that one. I started out, actually, I have a little thing where I started out was running under 7-minute pace.
Feels good for about how many miles?
Oh man, I know it. I definitely stopped at the halfway point, and then I stopped 6 more times. My dad actually met me on a bicycle, and that didn't really help exactly, but he did follow me all the way to the finish, and I stopped 6 more times. I did finish under 4 hours. I ran a 3:58, and that's actually my slowest marathon so far. I haven't done any others that are above that time.
Well, at 17, and I bet you learned a lot from that one.
I did, but I was young, and
Yeah, what the heck.
And then I kind of didn't really run regularly, in college. I just did the college thing, and but did get back to it once I got back up here,
And you jumped in with us, and you and I became famous friends. And
Absolutely.
like I said, we used to train together, but now it's as should happen that you've left me way behind with your Boston qualifier. Tell me about training for Boston, and what marathon did you qualify in, and what were you doing then?
So as I mentioned, it was like a 7-year journey. So I trained with a buddy. We just used one of those, online programs or whatever, just using sheets of paper and different workouts. And we put in a good program. And on that one, I ran 3:27:53 or something like that. And
Stellar.
that is what introduced Boston, because it was less than 3 minutes qualifying.
The qualifying times are pretty stringent. It's not many people that can do it.
And they kept getting stronger too. Like
Yes.
they keep lowering
Yep.
the time, so it makes it more and more difficult.
Right.
But it was a 7-year journey where I finally qualified in I think 2018 at Louisiana, or 2019, and actually I ran the 2022, so I finally qualified in 2021, and I ran a 3:28 and some change. So, and that, with aging up, that qualified me, and so that began the whole build up for Boston.
Exciting times, huh?
Wonderful.
You were very
Yeah.
exciting. I remember
Finally
how
accomplished the goal. It was a big goal.
And the neat thing about Baton Rouge, I don't think that a lot of people know, is how many people from here, kind of a consequence of a lot of us training together, how many people actually go and qualify. It's always so rewarding to see how many people from Baton Rouge go.
Absolutely. There's just such a strong running community here, and, lots of advice, and, people supporting one another in the training.
It's great. And so that's an exciting time for you. And I remember everybody was training a lot together, and kind of a pivotal day for me, and probably, I guess, for you, with a lot of people that were your friends, is I remember sitting at Gail's Ice Cream one time after a run, which we do, and you came and sat down beside me and said, things are not right with me. I'm not sure exactly how you said it. And, I looked at you, and I probably thought it for a week or so that things didn't look right. It's kind of, I don't know if anybody else told you that you had kind of a
it's pretty obvious
distant
when
look.
you're in that place. It's not easy to hide.
And, for somebody that I know is just the funniest, friendliest, cutest, he's the popular guy in the group. To see that was heart-wrenching for me. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so my training was excellent. I mean, I had the best build I've had, and I really was looking to lower my marathon time. And, everything was going fine. And then all of a sudden, probably about 4 to 6 weeks out, I kind of fell into this depression. I was familiar with depression because I had experienced it once before, and it was a pretty long process. So going into it, I was a little bit concerned. But the lucky thing is that there is an end. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. You can get through it. You take advantage of the things that you can do to help yourself to get through it. But my build-up was going great. I ran a 1:33 half marathon at Seaside, and another 1:33 at one in New Orleans. So I was really doing great, and but I hit that roadblock. So
Does it happen overnight? I mean, what do you wake up? It's something that a lot of us don't really understand.
Definitely not overnight. I think there are triggers, things that may, cause it to happen. The first one, went through a divorce, and that was a pretty, major life experience, a living death,
without a doubt.
Unfortunately. So that really plummeted me into that. And then the second time, I think it was probably a little financial stuff. Just feeling a little pressure, some things. And then
I remember us talking about that from a business standpoint.
Yeah, and I knew to seek help. So, I went to my doctor, I got on antidepressants, I saw a counselor, things that people, and all the people around me, supporting me, wanting to give me advice and help me. It's important. When you get into that hole, it's not easy. You're just not enthusiastic. You lose weight. Your appetite's gone.
And you're training for Boston.
And that was the big issue. So my body was just out of whack. Like going to the bathroom, different, not regular and all that. And then put on top of that, the fact that Boston is not your early morning marathon, and you got to ride a bus for an hour to the start.
For those of you who don't know, it's in waves, and you probably started mid-morning to late morning.
Yeah, close to 11, like 10:50, I think, was our start time.
Did all of the thought of that stress you out a little bit as well? Or?
Not so much. I mean, I was just where I was, so those kind of things. I just in my mindset was why I was apprehensive and just not wanting to do it. And I was, and everybody around me was like, "Man, you can't not do it." And I heard that, I listened to people say it. My brothers, my family, everybody was saying, "Man, you can't not do it."
And that made the pressure even probably more.
And I went all
the
way to really, as the night before, I said,
were you about not to get on the plane? Were you to a point? I know that
it was that as well. I think that was probably the family stuff that said, no, you got to go do this.
Just at least go up there.
So definitely, I took that step. So I took that small step.
Was that a big step? Do you remember?
Any step when you're in it is a big step. So that's just the reality of that place. And but that went fine, and all the days leading up were fine. Little glitch. I only would advise people to get into like a hotel where other people are staying. I was a little bit by myself, and that probably would have been better if I was with another group, with our group, because there were a lot of people up there. I think there were at least 15 people.
Yeah, there was tons of us up there, and I had made that trip to support the runners from Baton Rouge, but also I knew that I wanted to be there to see you through this. And I remember we had, we had lunch the day before at the hotel I was staying at, which was the Elite Runners Hotel, and so that was kind of fun for you, probably.
Very nice. Yeah, I love that.
But you were in a good place until you weren't, even during that lunch when I said, you're looking forward to the race, and so that day before, tell us about that.
So again, I just didn't really know. I was still, thinking about not doing it, and I knew like I had to get a decent amount of rest the night before, and if I felt like if I had gotten enough sleep, and I woke up that morning, and I would do it. Even that is a struggle because you're waking up super early.
Yeah, it's
you're
all
hiking to where the buses are. You're doing your drop, and it's just a lot involved in that race.
It is, and stressful logistics, everything about it.
And luckily, Kathy Abella was on the bus with me, so that was important.
Kathy's wonderful.
We got up to the race. Luckily, I didn't have a lot of time to think because we got up to the little village up near the start. It was super packed in there, long lines for the bathrooms. Luckily, I got through a line and went to the bathroom.
Didn't need the stress of the potty stop.
Yeah, and then they give you, indication, your wave needs to go. So you start walking towards the start. It's a few blocks.
You didn't have time to think about it, really, huh?
I know. Luckily, there was another bathroom right before the corner there, right before you get into the corrals. And so I got to go to the bathroom twice. And then I got into the chute, and it was like less than a minute, and the gun goes off for us.
That's good. For a lot of us back at the hotel, there's an athlete tracker that we track athletes. A lot of us had no idea whether you were going to start the race till you showed up on the athlete tracker. There was kind of a rally. It did Donnie, and we see your name on the first 5K, and it's like, hallelujah, he started the race. So. And, we had talked about, Donnie, even if you get 17 miles, because your training hadn't been perfect, so I'm sure that was in the back of your mind, even get through there. And you were hitting every split. It was like
luckily,
you ran great.
I had done research, and I understood the course and how you should approach it. I knew not to go out fast, and, I wasn't in a mindset to go out fast. but I was consistent. I was right at like 8-minute pace through the first, bunch of miles. And then hit a little bit of a roadblock where I had to use the bathroom on the route. And it was, not number one. It was the other one. So it took me, I left 4 minutes in the toilet on that. And I also left my my hydration in the toilet too.
That's enough to freak somebody that's having a great race.
Luckily, I had a good bit of the race behind me, but
what goes on to your mind knowing what you had behind you? Are you still depressed, or things changing for you?
Through the race too, I was using my mom's favorite prayer is just repeating Jesus' name over and over. So it's just something I would do just to settle me, and then also just being thankful, giving him all the praise, and that he's carrying me basically through this race.
You're gonna make me do something. I knew that was gonna happen. Yeah. And we've got a picture here, and I showed it to you because a lot of us were at the finish line with you. That was just, and Donnie ran a really, really good race. Not kind of old, Donnie finished the race. You ran a stellar race. So, the good Lord and your mama above took care of you.
Absolutely, I'm very pleased with it. Thank God I completed it. I did it. I showed up and I made it happen. It was just the last 2 miles where I started to cramp up a little bit, and in my mind I'm going, okay, I have 2 choices. I can stop and walk, run the balance, or I can just keep on plugging. And luckily I chose keep on plugging, because I think I would have seized up and it would have messed me up even more.
So that's a meaningful medal. Meaningful for everybody.
And
but
3:36, not a bad time.
Oh, everybody watching, that's a really, really good time.
But it wasn't a requalifier, so I did miss that benchmark. But I wasn't planning on running it. I did run one more marathon. I ran Big Sur, and that one was a very challenging race as well. And of recent time, I'm having some knee issues, a little cartilage here and there. So I'm not putting in as much work, and I think I'm backing off of that long distance kind of grind.
Going to the halves.
Yeah.
How are you mentally, and anything that you can think? Because I know that I had another friend of mine that out of the blue had the exact same thing, and you really were helpful for her.
Yeah, and that was helpful for me too, just to have that opportunity. I think if people are in that place, it's good to have somebody who's been there before to help walk them.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And now I'll have to brag on Donnie, and he came out in his John Travolta outfit to Varsity's 25th anniversary or birthday party and won the Disco King Award.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So things have come a long way since that day in Boston.
Yep.
Anything else that you want to add about the thoughts of this? Because I know a lot of athletes go through this and go through it by themselves.
I know, like, moving forward, I may encounter these difficulties in the future and all, but luckily, when you've been through it, you understand that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is help available, medications, counseling, talking with friends, family. So lots of resources. The thing is just realize, you're in a bad place. It's something, when you're in it, you don't feel like you can get yourself out of it, but there is a way.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that everything you have said is going to be real meaningful to everybody out there. So I really appreciate that.
I'm happy to be here for it.
And as I'm going to do is usually, well, there goes my glasses, is end every one of my segments with something I'm going to call running shorts, maybe a little bit lighter look at the world of running and any kind of running lessons that you can take away from it. And I can start with this one, is that in the mid-'80s, I was invited to run on the U.S. track and field team at what's called the 8 Nations Games. And what a great honor it was. I was able to, supposed to run the 10K on the track, and I didn't have much experience with running 10K on the track at all. I mean, I'd run it in the 84 trials, but you don't say no when you're invited to that. So I said, let me go ahead and do this. It was, if you remember Carl Lewis, the sprinter,
absolutely.
Carl Lewis was on that team, so it was a real prestigious team. So I get over there thinking, well, I can run with these girls, and there's some pretty, there's the United States and 7 other, big countries. So we get on the track, and, those of you that know, it's about 25 laps of the track. So I'm thinking that, well, I can hang with these girls. I mean, I'm thinking positive. So we go through that first mile, and it's probably about 5:15, which is a little starchy for where I am there, but I'm doing okay. So get through 2 miles and similar, and it's not going too bad, but that's still a little bit. It's a little bit. So anyway, probably you'd like to hear that the end of the story is that the inexperienced American girl came from behind and won the race, but that's not exactly what happened. But I will tell you that it was a moment in my life that I can always look back on and love, is that I got a standing ovation, and that's probably about 100,000 people in Olympic Stadium there. And my standing ovation was because I was last. I didn't get lap, but I was last. I think it's probably that they never seen an American,
awesome,
finish last. So it was wonderful to me. I mean, I didn't run bad. I ran upper 33s again, and but those were some girls. So I guess my life lesson is that take your victories while you can. That there was wonderful things to be learned from finishing last and getting a standing ovation. So as we say in at Varsity Sports, run hard, live easy, which to me means put your heart in everything that you do, but don't be too hard on yourself. So
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Donnie. I appreciate
it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody.
I run Louisiana, I run Louisiana, I run Louisiana.